So that taco flavored gum was pretty good.
Yeah, it was.
Not gonna lie, I'm
What's your-
really glad they reached out for the sponsorship.
It tasted like butt.
I'm shocked that you have that frame of reference, my brother.
Disgusting.
Why would you do that?
They're giving
I
us.
didn't say it was bad butt.
Were the streaks on the cheeks?
They're giving us
Streaks
tens.
are on the cheeks.
Hey, they're
Side
giving
to
us
side.
tens of dollars. Okay.
Tens
And
of
you have the
dollars.
audacity to
Don't
shit on them.
Don't
like
lie.
that.
We paid them for this one.
We lost money on this ad.
Did you guys hear about? You're big into AI. We could talk about this for a minute.
No, we can't.
Yeah, you know what's up. Have you heard about like AI decoding a lot of like these ancient texts from like that
No,
we can't?
I haven't.
Yeah, and I think it's a great idea. I think it's cool as hell. The problem is, I think the only problem I have that I've noticed is the pareidolia. You know how we have it?
What is a pareidolia?
Yeah, I'm not.
Do you know what
familiar.
that is?
No.
It's like we see stuff in stuff that isn't there.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Oh,
So like
finding meaning
seeing
out
a
of nothing?
face in something that isn't there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I've had that. I
like
had
those
that a lot.
stupid
You're
therapists that do
recognizing-
like
me
the
too.
pictures and they're like, "What do you see?" And it's like, "Oh, that makes you this."
Yeah. Well, for a long. Speaking of the faces, actually, I remember this. So like.
Well, I have a
chi-
good face one too.
Well, I was about to say childhood memory unlocked right now that I forgot about. I remember there was a certain point. I think I was going through puberty. I saw a face in everything. And I remember one point I told my mom, I was in the restroom and I called her and I was like, "Mom, there's a face right here." And she's like, "You're seeing faces?" And I showed her, I was like, eyes, mouth, blah, blah, blah. She's all like, "Oh,
I guess
don't
I see
tell
that.
no one." That was her advice.
Really?
She's like, "Don't tell no one that." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But looking back, I was like, "That's funny as hell."
Don't need anyone asking questions now.
I think I wound up telling her, I was all like, I see it in everything. But I noticed after that moment she told me that, I didn't notice it no more. I mean, maybe every once in a while I'll be all like, "Oh, I see something there," you know.
Maybe you're afraid to notice it.
It could be. It's that whole childhood thing. We, like,
You've
since our
been traumatized now.
imagination gets shortened, we don't see as much. Like with the whole ghost aspect. That's what the argument is we outgrow it.
Mine are a lot more fearful than that because I don't know. It's probably around the same age group roughly. Like I mean, it's definitely like a young teen,
Yeah.
if you will. And I remember oftentimes I'd be laying in my bed, and I couldn't sleep, so I'm just looking. And I'm just looking at my room while laying there, and like maybe in like a pile of clothes or like some weird like
It was there.
just something. There was like a face, and it for some reason it was always unsettling to me. Like it was just really, I don't know, it's unsettling, and it just kind of freaked me out a little bit. But I see faces. I see a lot of faces in like nothing.
Well, see,
I think I was
never
kind
seen
of
the
spooked.
faces
I don't
thing.
remember being terrified, but I think unsettling is it's eerie.
Yeah. It
eerie.
wasn't like I was screaming in fear, you know.
Yeah.
But it was like I don't like that. That shouldn't be there. I almost can't close my eyes until I verify that's not a freaking face.
what I think it is.
you
Yeah.
know.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I've never seen like the faces thing. However, when I was younger and laying in bed and like trying to go to sleep and stuff like that, one of the things that always would get me is I can't go any closer.
Our guests can't hear you.
You see how your story just got interrupted. Now you lost your train of thought.
Right? But no, the whole thing is like I did still always feel like there was something where I wasn't looking. So it was kind of like one of those things where it's like I feel like if I did look, then it was there. So I just wouldn't look.
That seems more like the fear of the
and it would
unknown,
be almost
though.
like that weird, like you could feel like something's like right there. Like
Okay, I think it's similar experience. It's very similar because I mean
like the fear of bringing it into reality kind of thing.
Yeah. I think the difference is we actually looked at it, whereas you didn't. You just chose to be. You just chose to ignore it, and just I don't want to see it, therefore it doesn't. Yep. But I do feel like there's something.
And I would basically I would kind of
unknown.
empower myself, like so, like for me, a lot of different things, like let's say like stuff like Samurai Jack or whatever, like cartoons and stuff that I looked at the heroes and I would always kind of imagine like the more I think of them, the less likely anything evil could happen. Like I'm thinking towards the good. I'm thinking towards the heroes. Like the heroes are going to protect me, kind of shit.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know.
You kind of lost me a little bit on that one, but
It was just how I would like
a coping mechanism.
Yeah, it was a coping mechanism. It was a good way to be able to fall asleep because it's easier to fall asleep knowing that you're protected by heroes than it is thinking you're being watched by something evil.
Okay, okay, it's not that you necessarily think it's evil either, because I didn't think like, oh, that's an evil face, you know. It's just I saw it and it was
I wouldn't
unsettling.
say I necessarily thought it was evil, but I knew it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. That was the key defining. There
It's
was
very menacing.
It wasn't a peaceful feeling.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
But back to AI decoding this, it's just I'm more worried.
Yeah,
That is fair. That is where we were.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
Well, it's
I don't know. You guys are seeing faces and stuff.
Well, Pareidolia, I think it boils down to like pattern recognition, basically.
Okay.
And like the problem is like they could probably decode most of it, but the problem is like maybe if there's an extra scratch somewhere, it isn't. I think we shouldn't take it. Take it for face value is what I'm getting at with AI stuff. Take it to a point. It's all like maybe once it helps us figure out something, then we can probably go back and correct it ourselves.
Okay.
But I think it's a good beginning. The tool.
That's
thing.
fair, because like language does shift over time, and we see words like change meaning. Like right now, if I was to say the word, you're instantly going to think of the heinous act that one human does to another. But it's not strictly to that. There's a couple songs I do listen to that like are Irish folk songs, and they use the word, but it's not in that sense, and it doesn't necessarily
like
hold
you
that
can
weight.
rate me of
Negativity.
like you can rate
But-
me of my pride.
But
that's one.
yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I mean it's really contextual.
It
Really
Sorry,
comes
I
down to the taking of what's not yours.
And,
that's it. Yeah.
And what it is. So I mean, you
Yeah.
know, that word, we can't use that word willy-nilly now because of the way it's perceived within today's society. Whereas, you know, you may read like the end of times on some hieroglyphs, and sure, that we would perceive that as like the end of times. That must mean some cataclysmic event. God came down and took over the world. Whereas they just meant the end of times, like, all right, it's the end of times. We need to start growing these other crops rather than these crops. So it may not be as menacing or as evil or like as crazy as how we perceive it with our knowledge. Whereas back then, that's just commonplace. You know, it's like us making fun of each other. You know, it's just commonplace. But if we try to talk to other people that we don't know as well as each other, you know, it comes across wrong.
Yeah.
So, it's all up to interpretation. It's whoever reads it is going to make their interpretation of it and propagate it that way.
I was just gonna say, if anything, like, I don't think we should depend on the AI deciphering, but I think it'd be a really good starter to hopefully improve our.
It's a good tool.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
100%. It's a great tool to help us understand more than we could if we tried to decode it straight ourselves.
I hate to go off topic, but like, could you imagine like some civilizations that are so like, well, they'd be primitive to us, right? But like we run into them, what they would think of us as like. I don't put it as like we'd be their almighty or something, but just how they would
demons.
Yeah, or they're demons. You know, it's just really interesting.
Okay, like what civilization, for example?
Just anything that's more primitive than us. So if we ran down to like the Amazons, I'm sure there's some tribes that are still, not as
disconnected,
technologically advanced as us, disconnected, and just how they would perceive us.
Yeah.
Whatnot. I just think it'd be cool. Like you pull out your phone and be all
it's
like,
funny because I mean, even
look
even
at this,
within ourselves,
you know?
even within ourselves,
and then you become a god somewhere. That's pretty dope, right?
Like I said, even within ourselves, I think we experience that. Not even just in other tribes, but like one of the things me and Delbro here were talking about the other day. Like,
is that right?
The shift from media monoculture to what is basically like a filter world, where it's like you went from having like critic gatekeepers for everything that we take in and socialize about, to now we have an algorithm that feeds each one of us our own little curated world. And so now we're all disconnected on what we can actually share with each other versus like basically
just our personal algorithms?
now when
Is
someone's
that what
trying to
you're
share
saying?
something with you, even just amongst your own culture, not just looking for like a more primitive like tribe, you would think basically anyone who was in the monoculture world was more primitive to what is the internet world.
What's the okay?
Okay,
You're adding a connection.
what's-
The
what's it?
connections. What's
A
go ahead.
prime example. This is going to be the way to connect it for you. Okay, so like back in the day before we had internet, right? we all watched the same movies. We all watched the same TV shows. We all watched what was given to us to watch.
The culture.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, everybody watches their own things, and there's so many different avenues to go down.
Okay,
so
alright,
it's
yeah.
like
I gotcha.
the movie argument's a big one. You know, it's like back then we all watched the Disney movies. We all watched these specific things. Whereas now
all
you
talked
go into
about
a
those same
room
things.
and you ask like he watches totally different things than I can be exposed to, or that I get exposed to. You watch totally different things as well than either him or I watch. So all of us, rather than being connected on what we're being fed via the entertainment side, you know, like people used to just go to Fox News or NBC or MSNBC or like CNN. And there are still people who do, but there's also a lot of people now that go to these other sources of information that
everyone finds their source that they're comfortable with learning from.
Yeah, so
Now,
rather than it being
having to be forced into the same source as everyone else.
Well, that's interesting.
I wouldn't say necessarily forced. I mean, just exposed. I mean,
no,
force
but
is
the
right word,
algorithm,
but just we were
it builds
kept in a
off
line.
you.
We were kept in a line.
Okay.
So like there was only so much that we had to choose from. Now you got 8 channels to swap between. There's not a lot of variation in what you're going to learn versus the other guy.
And now we basically have infinity channels as long as one other person will watch what you're putting out there, because anybody can. You know, right? Like, I mean, we can go look at we can go through YouTube and go find those extreme things that have like next to no views that could have propagated amongst 5 or 10 people, and whereas back in the day you wouldn't have had that unless you had in-person interaction.
So basically, and the reason why it's called like monoculture is because that was our culture. You know, you watch something on TV that Sunday, you go to school or work that next day, and you all talked about it because it was you all watched it. It was the big thing happening, and it was one of the only things you could watch.
I kind of miss that. I'm not gonna lie, if I'm being honest with you.
Oh yeah, we all
I think
do.
we're a lot more separated
100%.
than we ever have been.
Well, that's by design.
Because we were
Yeah,
unified in a lot of things. We were either unified in dislike or we were unified in agreement because we had to decide. You know, you went to school, you talked about it. Was that okay? Did everybody else think that was okay? You know, like you started bouncing those ideas off of everybody.
Well, it's the human interaction where you don't have that as much.
Exactly. And now, you know, you go up to someone and you're like, hey, you know, you won't believe what just happened on TV the other night. And they're like, you watch TV?
yeah, no joke, yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. You'll talk about like, hey, I posted on Facebook, you see, and I'm all like, no, because I never get on it. And just being on a platform itself, and I won't get on it for like maybe once a day, but it's just why I couldn't tell you how many times you've asked me, hey, have you, you know, I saw it on Facebook, or you posted something on Facebook or something, nonetheless, and I was like, no, I didn't see it. And it's
Well,
just,
I mean, I don't blame you
that
for that
little bit of
either. I just
disconnect.
ask if you have.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I
No,
don't
no.
go to your Facebook and just,
exactly.
all right,
yeah.
what did you, but I just look at my feed. Whatever the algorithm decides to send my fucking way, minus outside of a few isolated events.
But yeah, damn, that was pretty. That was pretty. What'd you think of that? Wow.